Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to this week's episode of That Scale RC Show. We are on episode 51. I'm your host, Adam, alongside with Jeremy and Travis Kendall, and we got a little special treat for you. Travis is actually on his way back from doing some highly illegal street racing with his RC car, and we're going to pick his brain about it.
Top Fuel Travis, how was your night?
Yep. Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah?
It was good. It was good. Yeah, you know how it goes. Street outlaws, lawless, running around with Colombian Bam Bam strapped onto the car.
AK in one hand and a White Claw in the other.
Kidding. That's right. Not just kidding. Seriously, but no, it was really good. It was a lot of fun. This was technically the second race because we're doing Wednesday nights right now, and so last week they got their top 10 list all sorted out. It was really a top 9 list because they didn't have enough cars for a top 10, but tonight we had like 14 cars or something, so we actually we sorted out the rules for how moving up and down the bracket works and just getting on it in general. So for those of us who showed up like myself who weren't on the list last week and I had to race my way into it, we held a bracket race only for the people that were not on the list so we could race onto it, so to speak. So that was pretty cool. So that's what we did, and that was like 3 races that we did that. We had everyone draw chips, and when they drew chips, they drew lane choice unless they just gave up lane choice to the other person when I came over to ask, which was actually pretty often, so that made my job a lot easier. So we all pulled chips for lane choice, and then we just raced it out like that. So I made it through the bracket. I won all my races, and then so the top 2 of the bracket became 9 and 10 because we disqualified 9 because he actually doesn't own a drag car and has no intention of racing. He just happened to be there last week, so we disqualified him. So the top 2, basically the winner of the finals of the bracket became number 9, the loser became number 10, and then from there everyone is racing up to the next position. So whoever's lower can challenge higher, kind of. So we worked our way from the bottom up. So I was able to make it to 7. I lost the race for 6, but then 6 raced, above that, and then the position changed. So I could have raced the other guy for 6, but then he had a mechanical failure, or rather, he had a really slow motor, and technically you can reject a call out. You have to do it the weekend after, or the week after if you reject it. So that kind of put an end to me moving up the list tonight, so I had to stay at 7.
So you sucked is what you're saying.
But it was a lot of fun.
You sucked and it was terrible.
Yeah, well, actually, it was kind of funny. So Colin, my co-host for Track Walk, he was the spot below me in 8. He actually challenged me for number 7, so we went and raced, and he actually beat me, but the video showed the closest red light I've ever seen. Like, looking at it without a camera, you would not have been able to tell. So when they saw the video, and I barely won it on a technicality.
Oh, wow.
So I never actually lost my spot tonight.
Right on, so you had a good time then.
Yeah. No, it was a blast. We started at like 6:45 with the bracket, and we finished the list race like at 8:15. So we were done super fast.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me when you messaged saying that you're all finished.
Well, right, and everyone stayed a little bit longer to do like test and tune and stuff like that, but because a bunch of stuff on my car is changing for next week, like the body and everything, it didn't really make sense to me to spend a bunch of time tuning the car, and if it's just going to feel different next week to begin
right,
with.
No,
so
good point.
I just packed it up and called it a night. And my car did a lot of running tonight because obviously I had to race through the bracket and then race up through the list and then defend a bunch.
How'd Jared do?
I was like, yeah, Jared did great. So So how did that work? So Jared, he had his, I think we talked about it either last show or the show before, where he has his DR10, and there wasn't really much changed on it besides diff oil, shock oil, and electronics. And so he came out and did super well with it. So he raced through the bracket. He kind of got screwed a little bit on the bracket. We were, and that was I guess more or less my fault. But what happened was we had one extra person, so someone had to get a bye, and to determine, I volunteered and said I'll just race so we can just coin flip to see who the other two people, or who the other person is that gets the bye, and I'll just race whoever loses that coin flip. And so when I did the coin flip for those people, I kind of just tossed it at the ground, and it didn't work out really for Jared. So then he had to race. He raced me and then lost, and then I beat the guy at the top of the bracket. But then Jared challenged the guy that became number 10, and then he made a 10 on the list, and then he got challenged twice and stayed at 10. He tried racing for 9, but he hit the center line and then actually took out the light sensor at the end.
No.
So he disqualified himself. But that was really the only bad run he had all night. The rest of it, he was doing really well. So he's in a solid 10th right now.
He had a good time though.
So
He enjoyed himself.
Yeah, he loved it. It was a good time. So, the atmosphere was just awesome. Everyone was being cool. It was, it's all kind of go with the flow right now because we're still trying to figure out the nuances. Like, for example, how I might have talked about this, but there was the my body, the octane is catching a bunch of air. So if I bury the throttle too much, it carries air and it flips up into the air. Well, on a race that I won, it was actually the championship one for the bracket. I went up in the air and I flew too high. I won the race decidedly, but I flew too high for the sensor to determine that I was right. So we had to run the race again because technically, I guess they decided that I didn't cross the line. So we had to run it again. And I managed to win it, but then it was also kind of funny. The next one, the next time that happened, when my car went up, I was actually on the wheelie bar wheels when I crossed the line.
Those were the only two tires touching was the wheelie bar wheels? That's funny.
Yeah, correct, according to the video. Yeah, so because the same thing happened, and so okay, well, we're going to rerun. But no, my wheelie bar wheels were on the ground, so I did manage to actually keep it.
God, that's funny.
So yeah, it was pretty crazy. So the one that I challenged for 6, I thought I won because I thought Jesse, he was in 6, disqualified himself because he went across the center line. But the video showed that only his wheelie bar crossed, and I guess if the wheelie bar doesn't count if it crosses the line, but the rest of the car has to. So I don't really know how that works yet. But that's really kind of just where it stopped for the night. But it was a lot of fun. It's just easy, It's just, I don't mean driving it and doing it is easy, but I just mean just going out there and actually just racing and having fun with everybody. It's super low stress.
That's awesome.
So it's a really good time. Yeah, there's some great races tonight, so definitely looking forward to doing this more.
Right on.
Yeah.
So was that at Die Hard, or were you guys racing somewhere else?
No, this was at the Die Hard strip. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, just trying to clarify some things. So if anyone was listening, they're curious, because I know I made the joke, he was doing illegal street racing. He wasn't. It was a controlled environment. We don't break the law here.
No, the only caveat to all of it is that we're trying to keep it to a pretty limited group just at the moment because technically restrictions still are in place. So we aren't really advertising a lot of new racers to come and join the group yet. But eventually, once it's, I guess that part of the restriction is really vague. So we are kind of trying to do our best to just not put ourselves in that position at all. But eventually we'll then advertise this essentially that, hey, if you you want to make the list, then Wednesday nights are list races, and then we'll advertise some cash days and stuff like that. But we need to wait for at least the next phase before we can even think about that.
No, that makes sense.
So that's where we're at.
Sounds good. Sounds like some fun stuff.
Yeah, that peak in Gen 4 rips. I couldn't believe it.
Now, I'm just curious because I don't think I've ever asked you guys, what battery are you running with your setups?
I'm running a 6100 ProTech 2S Shorty is what I'm running. Mine is a LIHB pack, one of the high volts. I think technically those are illegal per the NPRC, but we're allowing them at Die Hard. We can't charge them to full capacity. We still have to charge them to 4.2. But that's what we're running pretty much.
Okay, no, I was just curious. I guess the other question is, because I know we haven't really touched it, or I don't know if we have touched this base on the show, but I guess the discharge rate, 50C, 100C, what kind of discharge rate are you guys running?
It seems to vary. I think most of them, I think right now, especially for if people are actually buying and not cheaping out on batteries, it's between 90 and 120C. But okay. I don't want to say though that people who want to be competitive should go out and buy those discharge rate batteries just because obviously there's a lot of limitations. For example, right now, I've got a huge problem with aerodynamics, so discharge rate's not going to help me right now. If anything, less is better. But yeah, that's what most of the average batteries I've been seeing around are going to be between 80 or 90C and 120. But you could come out with I think the other common one is 65C. You could come out with something like that and do just fine. At the end of the day,
isn't kind of the biggest problem people are having really is just trying to get all the power to the ground, at least on that surface.
Yeah. Well, really tonight the grip was actually pretty good, so there were a pretty decent amount of overtemps. People were trying to put so much power down that some of the people who were running 3.5s, they were really struggling with heat. So I know Wilbur and Jesse, they both mechanicaled in warm up doing burnouts because stuff was coming unsoldered and everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it kind of depends. You can definitely have that issue. It just kind of depends on the power band. Like I said, they're running some pretty fast stuff. I'm not convinced though that I've got a 5.5 Gen 4 in mine, and I think that is all I will ever need in that car, honestly.
Wow.
So it's just my fault. That's my issue exactly, is getting that power to the ground, and the other thing is just people trying to launch. So once you get a good launch, then yeah, if you can, then the car can pretty much take whatever you can throw at it, but you have to get that launch done.
I thought it'd be interesting to talk to you, about how the race and stuff went, because a lot of what we see on Facebook is there's a lot of new RC guys in general, but the drag racing scene is pretty young, and I think what I kind of thought it would be cool, talking to you about this, is hearing a seasoned racer's approach to no prep versus, people just kind of getting into it and testing the water and learning what it's all about and stuff. So it's, it's interesting, hearing what you and Jesse and Wilbur and Brett and all those guys that are, all seasoned, very quick racers, seeing how they tackle some of these problems versus, what you see on Facebook where guys are, locking their diffs and doing all this other stuff. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of principles you can pull over. The experience helps a lot, but at the same time, it's no question that we're also facing a lot of new issues. We've never dealt with heat in a way of trying to. First thing is we haven't ever really dabbled in trying to get as much power out of a setup as possible.
Yeah.
So so doing that and trying to do that within the limitations of the hardware can be pretty challenging, and that's something that we're not super in tune with yet, I guess. I mean, that's just, like for me, for example, I'm lucky. Like, my system is not a very big strain on the electronics. So for me, it's like the car still runs very well. I can do hit after hit, and I don't have heat issues. Some people are trying to get everything they can out of theirs, and it's, they're burning up. So I mean, it's everyone. The weird part about it is everyone seems to have their own thing going on. Every car seems to be handling a little bit different, but the communal help is so much higher. Like, everyone is just like, oh, try this or that, or, anything else. Like, everyone is so much more willing to help each other. So it's kind of cool. Like, we'll go out there and, like, obviously I'm competitive, so my goal is to race my way all the way to the top of that list. But I'm also just having fun, just hanging out with everyone, and that's, like, paramount for everyone else there, too, is everyone's just chilling. So that's the cool part about it, really. That's the big, like, stress relief. You can be there and there's no stress, no matter, like, how much you're racing. That's cool
really
part.
Cool. Yeah, I guess, it's funny thinking about that with, with trying to get power to the ground and stuff, because with the majority of the racers that are involved with the drag racing there, I mean, we all race like carpet off-road and stuff, and, we're running same type of motors, 6.5s, 5.5s, 4.5s, stuff like that, but we also have them backed way off, like 80 or 90% EPA. And so it is like super interesting, like you said, like trying to see how much power you can get out of it versus taming that power to make a lap.
Well, also on that subject, just real quick, and then I've got to go, but I made that video this week about doing kind of like mocking the 2-speed transmission setup on the radio. And that changes everything, because for me, like you talked about, like, we've got to bring the power down because it couldn't handle the launch, right? So I'm running like anywhere between 84 to 87% EPA is what I was working with. And that was like kind of my sweet spot. I've been staying at 84, but then I click that button right next, we're under my thumb, and then my EPA is at 100% once I've gotten my launch. So then I can actually use everything that the power band has to offer. The race that I lost, or that I thought I lost, but Colin Redlit on, I turned it down to like 80% on the launch to try and get more of that effect. And I grabbed like more throttle to compensate, but I ended up just spinning the tires. And I mean, I almost caught up, but I ran out of, like, big end, like, I caught him, but I just, kind of ran out of space, but so I put it back up to 84. So it's like, if you can get your launch dialed in and like where you feel comfortable on the finger, and then your car can take if your car can take the 100% after launch, right, which you can tell if it can by just doing like a really slow roll up off the line, then I recommend doing that, because that made the car a lot easier to handle. You don't spend the first half of the pass trying to rein the thing in. It's okay, let me get straight, and then now I can open her up and let it do its thing.
Man, that's awesome.
So I mean, honestly, like, I got to plug that video just because it's like, that was a huge difference for me, because like, if we're going to put these electronic setups in it, because it's like, I have a 5.5, but that doesn't mean it's slow.
Right.
It's very quick. So it's like, if I'm going to put this setup in it, like, I want to use it, so there's a good way how to do it. But anyways, that's my piece of advice, I suppose.
Yeah, for those of you that missed it or wondering what we're talking about, I had shared Travis's video post from the Track Walk podcast on the That Scale RC Show podcast Facebook page, so that you guys can check out that instructional video on how to give yourself a little 2-speed, or some people call it the nitrous button, or whatever they want to call it. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
but anyways, that's kind of my race recap. I got to get going here, but I appreciate you letting me
Rad. Well,
that.
thanks for popping in and telling us how your evening went. That's pretty cool. Maybe we can try and get out there and do some video or something next week and show some activities as to what's going on out there at the park.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good time to walk.
All right. Well, have a good evening, dude. Thanks for swinging by.
All right.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks for
thank you, and you guys
chiming
too.
in.
Yeah, you got it. Appreciate bringing me on for
All
it.
right, man. We'll catch you later.
All right, see ya.
Well, that sounds like he had fun.
Oh yeah, like I said, when we were talking off air, too cool
I
for us
know,
now.
right?
Just
Mr. Racer guy.
he left us. He left us just sitting here talking to our fans while he's out there living
He
the
left
dream.
us for 7th place. That doesn't make me feel very good. Honestly, though, to his credit, like there's some really fast cars there, and that isn't a high grip surface either. That's the crazy part. Is like it's pretty cool out right now. I would say probably like mid 50s, and so it wasn't like hot concrete or anything or asphalt or anything like that. But it is like super interesting. Like the amount of guys going fast there, and then it makes me wonder, okay, when we travel to somewhere that has high grip, how are these cars going to do, and how are setups going to change and stuff like that. So I'm kind of excited to see how all that goes.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like, I mean, I know, Travis obviously has a racing background, but I mean, to credit also, it's a new platform, still, working it out, and learning the ins and outs and coming up with the technique and all that.
Yeah,
So,
and that car, I mean, it has like 1 million diff fluid in it right now, which is way too much, and so it needs like 100,000 or 200,000 in it. But I mean, there's a lot of other stuff going on, like he said, like with the body and stuff, and so it's pointless to chase his setup that he's got going up until he actually has all the parts to make that thing right. Because that was that basket case car that we basically ended up replacing every single thing on, which was super funny but frustrating. But I mean, we got traded for a used SC10, and the thing was just destroyed and hammered, and like none of the parts really worked with any of the newer type stuff like the chassis or anything, and so we ended up having to build a DR10 from scratch. But the original shocks are still on it, and they're destroyed. I mean, like the shock shafts are so scratched up and old looking that they're not even shiny. So I've got a bag of new parts to give him to get that thing performing where it needs to be, but I just need to try and meet up with him so I can give him all that stuff.
all right. Yeah, one of these days I need to just, now that it's getting nicer out, I need to work on doing some testing with my drag car, because what kind of sucked was, we had that event that we went to back in, what was that, January?
God, I forget. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Time's flown by.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long. So, yeah, back in January down at JJ Customs, well, they went through some stuff, so he got out of that location, so therefore our drag racing area kind of like disappeared. So that's why it's been a while. And then of course with everything going on, and we're supposed to be like stay at home, this, that, and the other, and a lot of stuff has been closed. It's hard to find a place that's not populated by a bunch of foot traffic or vehicle traffic, and you're trying to do test hits. So yeah, I really would like to get mine out, but I did look at mine the other day. The front seemed to be okay. The rears, the tires need to be re-glued. They're like coming undone in a handful of areas.
We actually, that guy Jared that we were talking about, he's a friend of mine that I go crawling with, and like he has gotten bit by the RC bug like huge. Like he was new to RC in general last summer, and he started showing up at our comps and stuff, and then started pitching in and helping out with things and stuff, and he just kind of became like my crawler buddy that I try and go do stuff whenever I can with. And he's got a DR10, and when I swapped those Tekin electronics into it for him the other day, he blew the tires off the wheels the first time he was driving the car, so we had to do a quick re-glue and get him fixed back up to get going again. But it was kind of funny. I've got a DR10 showing up tomorrow actually, so I'm kind of excited to hopefully have it done and ready for next week so I can go participate in the fun.
Nice. So I'll 100% take full laziness, what's the word? Um, I'm owning my mistakes, but it was out of pure laziness. I was trying to get that car ready for our drag racing event, and I went to reach for um, my tire glue, and now mind you, because I crawl more than I drag race, I think all of my tires in crawling are beadlock, so I really don't have a use for tire glue. But I had some tire glue left over from way back in the day with my SE10 before I sold that off many years ago. And I was like, you know what? It's been sitting out of the way. I used it once. I said, it might still be good, but that's like me being optimistic. And I, of course, tried to use it, and it was dried beyond belief. So I was like, all right, what am I going to do? Because I need to get this thing ready. I need to get going. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Isn't tire glue essentially just crazy glue? So I was like, I'm going to use some crazy glue because I got a ton of that stuff laying around. And that's what I used. And I thought I did a really good job, setting the bead and getting everything glued up. And then, I let it sit overnight. The next day I was pulling on it, and I was like, hey, it looks like it worked because I said everything's holding up. Yeah, no, it's letting go.
It's tricky. Like, you got to clean the tire bead, you got to clean the wheels. Like, there's a lot of prep work, and even then, it still can be hit or miss whether or not you actually get them to stick. Depending, I mean, like, we have to glue all our tires for off-road racing, so like I'm pretty experienced, after like 10 years of it. But I mean,
So what you're saying is you're a professional
no, it's
tire.
just it took a long time to finally get past the point of having glue jobs fail, because it happens, and especially with these cars. I mean, that they're putting out huge amounts of power. I mean, like, they are not slow, so you are kind of asking a lot from a RTR tire that was glued in the factory and everything. So
Yeah, true. So I don't know. Like I said, what I got to do is, well, I'll probably end up having to order it because the glue that I had before was from my local hobby shop, which is like less than 2 blocks away. But the problem is they've been closed since the stay at home, and every time, because I know I'm being lazy, I could just drive over to see if they're open, but every time I call just to see if they're open, they have the same recording. Due to the shelter in place, we are not open. As soon as it's lifted, we'll be back open and ready for your business. Well, it's like, um, when is that going to be? Because there's a lot of other stores that I don't think are quote unquote essential, and they're already open. So to me, a hobby shop is essential. It keeps your brain going. It keeps your
I think most of our listeners would probably side with you on that argument.
So, I mean, come on now. Open up the doors already.
Yeah, so you had talked about CA glue. So that stuff is cyanoacrylate glue. And what
Mm-hmm.
makes tire glue different from regular crazy glue basically is just the thickness of it. CA glue, in addition to being, like just super glue, it's also used for gluing RC tires, but then also it's used by model airplane guys, that fly RC airplanes, and the thicknesses help fill gaps with it. And so, like, you can get really thin, which sets up super fast, but you can have it go wrong really quick and make a huge mess. So I usually get medium thickness, and I have the best luck with that. I use it on a lot of different stuff. Like, I'm doing a Night Customs 3D printed grill for a Toyota SR5 right now, and I printed the marker lights in black, and I CA glued them into the grill, and then I started sanding it and doing filler primer and stuff on it. So I'm using that medium thickness glue to kind of fill in the gaps, almost like you would with like Bondo, around the turn signals, so those can be shaved in and look like one solid piece with the rest of the grill now. So CA glue, even if you're not a racer guy, it is a really awesome tool to have in your garage for when you're working on stuff, because you'll find a million different uses for this stuff. And it does I would suggest medium, because it is somewhat thicker than just regular off-the-shelf super glue you get at a hardware store. That was
Okay,
a
that's
lot to
good to
say
know.
about glue.
Um, Well, not only, well, I did say earlier you are a professional tire gluer, so you are a professional when it comes to knowing about the specifications and applications
Oh,
for
I've
tire
glued my
glue.
fingers to tires plenty of times too. Like I've messed up a lot, so it's taken years and years to where I can do a glue job with no mess.
Nice.
So yeah.
So, with that being said, do you want to jump into our
Yeah, why
questions?
don't
I mean,
we?
I'm trying to
Let
look
me
right.
look at our clock. So we're only half an hour in. So yeah, why don't we do that? Let's answer some questions.
Okay.
If I can,
All right.
do you have them pulled
Um,
up or do I need to?
yep. I have them pulled up.
Crazy on it tonight.
Yeah, sort of. Okay, so I have it under all comments, so I can start asking away. It looks like we have like 6 or
It's
so.
not bad. Good.
So, so let's start with Kenny Good. I'm just gonna work my way down from how it shows up. Kenny Good, in your opinion, what is the best upgrade you can do for free? Being that it's kind of a vague question, I'm assuming this is applying to crawlers. Um, the best upgrade you can do that's free.
Huh.
Uh, that's actually interesting. Actually, you know what? There is something pretty simple. It's getting, I guess you could say, if your shocks come with two different spring rates. I don't know how the element is, but I know Axial always did that. They always gave you two softer spring rates and two firmer. And when you buy a ready to run, they would tend to put the firm in the front and the soft in the rear. And I guess the logic behind that is you're going to have your battery up front, your electronics are closer to the front, so you're going to want more support for that. But when the front is softer and the rear is firmer, I've noticed that it gives you a little bit more of a planted, like almost a predictable feel, like you can kind of see where the car is going to go. Um, so that's one
And
mod
it'll
you can do
climb
is
better
make
too.
sure, yeah. So swap out the swap out the spring rates if that's if your car has that. If they're all equal, then you really can't do that. But that's a good free mod.
I did that on
Um,
every SCX10 that I've had that had the two different spring rates. I think they started doing that on the SCX10 too. And yeah, that was one of the first things I would do. And then depending on, I don't know what car this guy has, but depending on your car, if you have a like an element or an axial, you can move your lower shock mount to the link mount and reduce some ride height and get rid of some fender gap and get a little more performance there too. So I don't know. I would say just
yep.
suspension tuning really is like probably one of the most effective no cost things you can do.
That and then the other big debate, which I'm surprised we've never really actually talked about, which could be a whole nother. Well, it's not really a whole nother segment, but we could branch off into this. But is that quote unquote mirrored versus non-mirrored motor setup? There's a lot of like what I'm talking about. Like there's a lot of people that say, and I never know which one's mirrored and not mirrored. I don't know where they came up with this, but there's especially with like the OG SCX10, even the SCX10 the 3-gear transmission style, the same that you find in the Element. The motor's designed to attach directly to that, and some put the motor facing back, so like the spur gear would be facing the front of the rig, and then there's others where the spur gear would be facing the rear of the rig and the motor's going forward. Now there's a lot of argument that some say one is better than the other because one reduces torque twist where the other one increases torque twist. So that used to be a big thing. I don't know if anyone really does it anymore. I could be wrong, and I'm sure I'll probably catch a lot of flack for this if I'm saying, oh, nobody does it anymore, and then 90% of our listeners say, yeah, I still do that. But yeah, so that's another mod that's free. You can actually change the rotation of the way that the motor's spinning when you're driving forward, and that can, like I said, alleviate some torque twist.
And the thing is too, like your suspension tuning can affect your torque twist too. So it's gonna be something that's kind of different for everybody depending on the weight of the rig, how they have their suspension set up, spring rate, oil, things like that, because all of that can either like help negate torque twist or increase it depending on which way you go. So it's kind of a good idea. Like I think it's one of those things that you just play with it and see. I'm gonna try it with the Element. Now with the Element, you have to replace the top shaft because if you spin the transmission around, you're going to have the overdrive in the rear and regular in the front. So with the Element trucks, the way their trans is, you do need to switch around the top shaft. But I'm gonna do that because I'm gonna try it, and one of the reasons why I want to is because I have a little more weight on the left side of the truck that I'm looking at versus the right. So driver's side is a little bit heavier and tends to sag some compared to the right hand side. So I'm gonna mess with that, and I'll kind of share what I find out with my particular rig.
Awesome. Yeah, so I hope that helps you out, Kenny. I mean, it was kind of a vague question, and we weren't sure what rig you have. So, I mean, I hope some of that is, you know, helpful. I guess the other thing too that's a free mod is, tires. Some, I think most of these cars now come with vented tires if it's a ready to run. I do know there's a big debate about whether or not the ready to run style venting is up to par, I guess you could say. A lot of these manufacturers, they'll send you a wheel that's plastic with a couple holes in the center of it to allow air to come out, which is fine, but there's that argument that once water gets in there, centrifugal force, as it's spinning, the water's never going to come out because it's getting flung to the outside. So I do know some people will go through and either leave those holes, they'll somewhat patch them, and then they'll just put holes in the tire themselves. So that's another thing you can mess around with is tire. There's always tire modification. I know some people used to take certain tires and cut out lugs, and it might have been a not the greatest working tire for crawling, and then all of a sudden they cut a couple lugs or added some grooves, and the thing crawled way better. So that's another thing you can always play around with. But I think that really covers it as far as free mods.
That tire cutting's a really good idea too. I saw a guy today on the Element Enduro page, and the general grabbers that come on the Element cars, like the compound's pretty good. Like it's pretty sticky from what I've seen. And this guy went and was alternating cutting lugs and stuff, and I have a feeling that it's probably going to work really, really well. So that's something that you can mess around with too. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, because like I said, realistically, that's all you can really do as far as best free mods. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head. So the next one is Eric Warren. A comment on last week. Don't be intimidated by styrene. It's a lot of fun, and you can really accomplish when you build. You can feel really accomplished when you build it yourself. I look to some of the best builders to get inspiration, but there's no way I have the creativity to build what they build. I build it for me and what I like. It's all about illusion in the scale game. Take a chance, you'll love it. Check out this ugly duck.
Which I like
and
it.
Basically,
I think it looks good.
No, he did a good job. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of like someone's personal take, like Eric's take on the P-Core system from Patriot campers. If anybody's in the overlanding, scene, if you haven't heard of Patriot campers, or Patriot trailers, they're out of Australia. And they make some crazy stuff. Like they have like all these different trailer systems, and then they came out with the P-Core, which is basically a replacement bed unit for like back half unit for any vehicle. Like you can, I've seen them on Dodges, I've seen them on Toyotas, the Jeep Gladiator.
Oh, that would probably look really good on that.
Yeah, so actually I follow Overland Expedition or Expedition Overland, whatever it's called. They go by Overland X, I think is the abbreviation for it. I follow them on YouTube, and they actually took their Gladiator, and that's exactly what they did. They had, I think he even said, "Oh, we had the Gladiator for like 3 weeks." Took it off and put the and took the bed off and put the P core
No, they
system
have
on
that Habitat camper too that drops in regular beds. That thing's super sick also.
Yeah, so there's a lot of cool things, but no, that's exactly what this picture reminds me of, and I think we'll definitely have to. I'll probably share it tomorrow. We'll have to share that picture to our page, show him what he's talking about, because I mean, it's
I've
pretty cool.
never.
It's
Sorry, go
total.
ahead.
No, I was just saying it's total like overland style.
Yeah, I
Is what
think
it
it looks
reminds me of.
killer. I've actually never really messed with styrene, so that's something that I need to get on my list.
Yeah, kind of like you said, the intimidating part is getting all your cuts, and kind of like making it the way you want. I mean, like I said, sometimes at the beginning I want to say filler is going to be your friend because you're not going to get everything the way you want it to be. So, kind of get it as close as you can,
Yeah, for sure.
And then shape it from there. Um, Oh, which actually brings me to another thing. I'm just going to do a little quick interjection. Um, Wes Broswell actually reached out to us over the weekend because he was listening to the show, and he was talking about the different Jeep bodies, and he kind of gave his 2 cents on some of it, and basically kind of broke it down, and it was kind of a cool analogy. I don't want to butcher it. I'll have to look it up, but I think he said picture the JK8 as like an SUV because you're basically making a smaller pickup version, and he said think of the Brute as the like truck version, like that was more of like the size because it was typically done out of a bigger
Oh,
Jeep.
okay.
So, but yeah. And it just reminded me because he's, one of the great ones when it comes to working with styrene.
Yeah,
So,
he is definitely.
so David R. Gustafsson. Um, I know this has been discussed in the past, but I bring it up again. When running high clearance links, do you run them front and rear or just rear? And most high clearance link kit come with bent links for the uppers and lowers. Do you really need these bent upper links? As always, great show, guys. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. Basically, yes, we have talked about this on the show before. And to answer your question, David, typically the front having quote-unquote high clearance links aren't really like the issue because most likely, since you're coming over an obstacle, by the time your tires come over that, those links, that high clearance area where they bend it up, is really not going to be contacted. I mean, unless you're going over some really jagged stuff, I don't ever see it being an issue. The rear is more the high clearance thing because instead of you dragging across your links, you're getting a little more clearance so that way you can kind of hover over the obstacle till your tire hits it. That's the theory behind it. As far as the bent upper, I don't believe you necessarily need bent upper links. I think they do that for two reasons. One, to keep the length the way they need it to be, because if you think about it, you can have the same, so you can have a bent link, and that rod end to rod end is the equivalent to that straight link that you have from rod end to rod end as far as distance, but because they have that bend in it, you now can have a little more clearance, so you're not going to interfere when you're running the bent lower links, because sometimes I've seen it, I think, was it the Wraith? One of them I used to see, they used to get really close so you would get some binding on extreme articulation. I forget what kit it was, and that's why I think they started including the bent upper links.
Now, so, sorry, I adjusted my headphones here. So I run the factory team high clearance links on one of my Enduros, which is like my kind of go-to rig, and they only include bents for the lowers in that particular link kit. I run them front and rear because when, like, what I've noticed with mine is like when I'm breaking over something sharp, or the top of a climb, there's something really peaked. If you look at like a side profile on my car, there's nothing hanging down but tires. Like there's no links the links aren't gonna make contact with anything. Like they're tucked way up out of the way. So front or rear, like all you've got is tire and nothing in the way now. So that's what I run on my own personal one, and I'm a huge fan of them.
Yeah, which is basically what I said. I said realistically, the front will only become an issue if you're going over something with like a crazy peak or very jagged. Otherwise, I think most of the area that you see the issue is in the rear. The other thing is, which I just want everyone to take into consideration, because I've noticed it, because I have a couple rigs with, high clearance links, and with the high clearance links, since the bend is usually above the pinion, now your pinion and your drive line become a little more vulnerable,
right?
Because they're now the lowest hanging point, instead of the links. So yeah, just to take that into consideration.
Actually, I'm going to reply to that and send him a picture of how mine is right now, actually, so that when they're listening to this, they can refer back to it. Because I just happen to have a picture. I don't know, like, I think most link kits come with them, so, I mean, you're not going to hurt anything by running them. I mean, I can't see any negatives other than it not looking very scale. But, if you're looking to get more performance, you got to sacrifice a little bit of something somewhere. So it's kind of the way it works.
Well, actually, it's funny that you say it's not really scale. I follow a couple of these Jeeps, and I've watched some of their I've watched the evolution of their builds, and like there's this one that I watch, and she's part of the Rockstar team. It's she goes by Mischief Maker JKU, I believe, or Mischief Maker JK, one of the two. She's got a 2012 Chief. It's like a baby blue Jeep Wrangler, and it's just evolved over the years. I think her real name's Holly Fowler, I believe. But she basically, I've watched the thing kind of evolve. Well, for the longest time, she was running a off-the-shelf kit from, was it Rock Crawler? I forget what the actual company was, because I just watched the video of it on YouTube the other day, and she had a basically off-the-shelf kit, and they wanted to make it very clear there's nothing wrong with the off-the-shelf kit. They just said that they were having a couple issues just due to the level of wheeling she was into and the amount of rock crawling she was starting to get into, that they had to remodify the rear end of the rig, and now they actually positioned the links and added some bends to them, which kind of created a high clearance to allow for better on the rock control.
So they are doing that on real ones. I had never seen it, so that's pretty cool.
Yes, so they do some slight bends to them just to get them up out of the way. Like I said, in the rear, they actually showed a before and after, and you could see it was tremendously different. And they didn't have to put a crazy amount of bend. A lot of it was changing where the links mounted in the factory location, because in the factory location they hung way down on the belly. So now they put them upwards, so they were higher up, and then with a slight bend that allowed to keep the geometry from being super steep. It was still more close to the way the factory was, but it kind of kept everything tucked up and out of the way.
Right.
So yeah, so it's not, like I said, I don't think they call them a high clearance kit in the 1-to-1 rule, but it is kind of implemented in the 1-to-1 world, if that makes sense.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so this next question is from Alex Sims. I bought a China Jeep JK 2-door hardbody, didn't think about the short 270mm wheelbase and finding a chassis that fits under it. Finally found the MST CFX. Haven't bought the MST yet. Any thoughts on that platform? I plan on this build being a small-ish wheel trail rig, nothing comp. I honestly don't have any experience with the MST platform. As far as the China Jeep JK 2-door, the only thing I can say is I know Elio has one or two of those in his fleet, and he, if I'm not mistaken, because he's a big time axial guy, I think he took the factory chassis. He might have lobbed off a little bit in the back, but left the front alone, if I'm not mistaken, and let it kind of come out past the car just a little bit, because I gave him an area to put a bumper. Because if you look at most Jeeps, and I noticed this the other day staring at Michelle's, the frame does come out quite a bit out the front of the rig, so it will look scale. And then I think he adjusted the wheelbase. I don't know if he did the front. I think he left the front alone and he shortened the rear. So it is doable. I mean, you could probably even do it with like with an element. You could probably get an element and do the same thing. You might have to lob off a little bit of the chassis in the back, but you could make your own links and shorten the wheelbase. You'll probably have to shorten the drive shaft as well, and then create the wheelbase you want. And I don't think he ever goes to a true like short wheelbase, because he still wants crawlability. So I think he does what you would call a stretched wheelbase in the real world. Like let's say if that's supposed to be like 270, he'll run it at like 275, almost 280, just to give it a little bit more, like almost like he's stretching it just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more crawlability, but it's still shorter than your standard, wheelbase you'd find on an Element or an SCX-10.
That's a hard problem. I built a D90, which I think was like 10.5-inch wheelbase, if I remember right. It was the little two-door. And I did it out of OG SCX-10 platform, and man, that was a lot of work. I mean, especially with like drive shafts and stuff like that, it took a lot of creativity to make that work. There's one outfit in Canada, I believe, it's GCM, and I think one of their specialties is chassis setups for the China Jeeps that have the full interior and short wheelbase rigs. I think that's like kind of their whole claim to fame. So maybe also check out GCM too.
Yeah, GCM makes a lot of stuff too. There was somebody else. I don't know if they were making a 3D printed chassis, but there was somebody making, because all they were doing were samurai builds.
Rad.
So they came up with some sort of they came up with something. I forget who does it. I'll have to look it up now. It's
I've been thinking about my CR12 Samurai that I built. Man, I really miss that thing. That was such a fun little truck. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to do I kind of want to do a short wheelbase rig. I got a body that is kind of, what's the word? It wasn't really desirable, and I call it the two-door Tahoe, but Parma called it they called it a trail truck or something like that, or Trailblazer. I don't know what the hell they called it. They called it something, and it looks just like a mid-90s Chevy two-door Tahoe, but it's not licensed. So there's no bow tie, no nothing, but it looks just like it. So I picked up two of them. I actually put one of the bodies on my Mega Mud truck, which needs to still be finished. But I still have another one of those bodies that I haven't touched, so the bumpers are still intact, all that. And I wanted to make a two-door Tahoe build. I just never. It was one of those things, like I talked about it, just never did it. So
I forgot all about that.
But
Parma kind of did they go out of business?
I don't think so.
I haven't seen any Parma, because like they have fast color paints, and like I used to see those on A-Main all the time. Like my very first airbrush paints were fast color from Parma, and man, I have not seen anything out of that company in years now.
Yeah, because honestly, the Parma, that's the body for my tow truck. That's the same company that's got that, and I think I got one more body from them. Just trying to think of what it is.
They had a really cool Nissan Titan for a while too. I think it was marketed as a monster truck body, but it looked really cool on crawlers.
Yeah, I'll probably have to do that while we're talking. But yeah, but I guess to answer your question, because I don't want to get totally, out in left field, but Alex, that the MST, I just don't really know anything about it. But if you want to go with something where you can get, some good aftermarket support, I don't know if you're going for like just the chassis. I mean, it's possible to get a chassis like that and modify something like an element skid plate or an axial, and you can, run something that's a little more, aftermarket supported or supported by the aftermarket. Um, so there's many ways to achieve this. It's just how much work do you want to put into it, I guess, is the best way to say it. But to be honest, don't really have any kind of experience with the MST
I hear they make really good
CFX
like
platform.
drift cars and stuff like that, but that's really the extent of what I know about them.
Exactly. All right, let's see. So Greg, oh my God, I'm gonna butcher this one.
Thrailkill.
Thrailkill.
I
Is
don't
that how
know,
you
but
say
it
it?
sounds super metal. Just say it that way.
Greg
Thrailkill.
Thrailkill. Exact. That's what I was waiting for. So I live in Wyoming. I'm basically the only person in my town that crawls. I'd like to get more I'm butchering this. I'd like to get to more events. I enjoy the solo crawling, but groups are definitely a lot better, big or small. So my question is there some page group website that I can go find yearly events so that I could plan and go to? Thanks for your time, and I love the podcast and content you guys provide. Pretty new to the hobby, so it's nice to hear people who have been in it for a while talk and give advice and info. Well, thank you. I guess the best way to say it, or I guess the best way for you to find anything would be to be a little active on Facebook. There's a lot of groups. Like if you join some of the basic crawler ones, I mean, there's fan pages for everything. I mean, there's Elements got fan pages, Axial's got fan pages. I mean, they've even broken it down. I haven't really paid too much attention with the Element, so Jay might be able to answer this one, but like with Axial, I mean, they got an SEX 10.3 fan page, a Wraith 1.9 fan page, a Wraith fan page, like everything. Like they kind of just break it down almost in every vehicle. Like they got a Capra fan page. So I don't know if it's the same way with Element, but you can basically follow any of those, and a lot of people talk about events that are going on. And that would probably be the best way for you to kind of like network and see if there's anybody in your area that crawls. Being that you're in Wyoming, I was going to say I think Indiana's not that far away from you. Geography is not my strong point when it gets past the Rocky Mountains. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But yeah, so I was going to say, I know that there's Badlands, which is going to be a pretty big event. So maybe if you want to go to, especially if you're trying to go to one this year, the West Coast got kind of, for lack of better words, shafted when it came to events. So a lot of our events got canceled and or postponed. So there's not a whole lot going on out this way, but I do know, like I said, Badlands is going on. There's another guy from the MKS team. They're putting on one called RC Fest, and he's in Illinois, I want to say. Yeah, I'll have to do that. It's been a while since we've announced like events going on, but that's kind of why there really isn't anything, because everything that we kind of like bring up or usually talk about or advertise gets postponed or canceled. So we haven't really had much to speak on.
The whole announcement today with Axial Fest Badlands, so there was a whole live broadcast of that I missed.
Yeah, I missed it too. I was working. I didn't get to see it.
I just answered him on the Facebook page too. There's a page called RC Map, Tiny Truck Maps, where
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Everybody like contributes and they pin it onto a map so that you can find areas and find spots to go in your area. And chances are, if you post that you're looking for some people to hang out with on that page, that you will most likely find some guys in your area. That seems to be a pretty good resource, and it really took off and got big really quick. So I would do that one. And like I said, right now I just put a link to that on his question that he posted.
Nice. last one is from Chris Trudeau. I know he always makes fun of me for pronouncing his name wrong, but this rain sucks. Haven't been able to get out and run my latest build. Do y'all get out regardless of weather? Are you picky about conditions? Well, to answer that, like as far as I go, preferably I'm like a fair weather crawler. Like if like I'm going out on my own and I want to do something, I want it to be kind of like nice, and decent out, because it's kind of like, you don't really want to be like going, it's storming today. I want to go run my car. As much as you want to, it's like it's kind of like the will or the demand that you have for it. For me, it's like if I'm just going out by myself, I'm not going to go out and drench myself and all that by myself. Now, if there's an event scheduled, like I've been to plenty of events. Like I've been to Recon G6. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. And it was in April up at what is that lake? I can't think of it right now, but it's where Crawford here used to be. Then they moved. But anyways, it was up there in Rollins Lake. We were there, and it started dumping. So we all put our jackets on, and I mean, it was an event, so we were all out there together. So it's kind of like it makes it a little more bearable when like you're out there for an event, because you're kind of like, okay, no, it's an event, no big deal, yada yada yada. Same thing with like fire and ice. We go out to Nevada to do fire and ice, and 1 year it was like the frozen tundra. It was just cold. It wasn't snowing, but it was just cold. Then the next year it was actually not bad. It was like almost t-shirt weather, not like an ounce of snow on the ground. Then the year after that, it was like, it was back to a ton of snow, super windy, and I mean, like I said, you never know. But like, would I go out and kind of go forge all those different, types of weather by myself? Nah, not really, unless that's what you really want to do. But like events, yeah, I'll just take it as it goes. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that answer kind of helps. It's probably not the one you wanted to hear. You probably wanted to hear, yeah, I don't care what it is, rain, sleet, snow, we do it all.
Me. No, if I want to go, nothing stops me. I will go if it's snowing. I'll go if it's raining. Now, depending. Like most of the areas I go to are really steep and rocky, and when it does rain, it can be pretty slippery. So if I'm going by myself, I am usually kind of selective about where I go, just so that if I fall down and hurt myself, I'm not stuck out in the middle of nowhere by myself. So the rain will kind of determine what location, but for the most part, unless I'm filming or doing product photos where, it works to my advantage to have it be nice and sunny out, if I'm going to be doing stuff like that, I'll wait for fair weather. But if it's just me by myself or another buddy or whatever, usually I'll just go no matter what it's doing, because it seems like the free time that I have to go do stuff like that now is shrinking, so I jump on that any chance I get.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, I was actually kind of like bummed out with myself last week. I brought my Capra with me up to Auburn when I was working, because I told myself, I said, okay, after work one of these days, I said, there's that creek bed. I want to test it out, because now that I got a battery that fits it properly and everything, I was like, I want to run it. I mean, I built the thing almost 6 months ago, and haven't run it yet, which is like bizarre. I've never have not run a vehicle that I just finished. And mainly for me, it was a battery issue, because the Capra has just a weird, oddball battery tray size. So like, you could put like certain like 1,200 to 1,500 packs in there, but they'd be super tight. Or you can get like these certain shorty packs, and those would drop right in. So it was like you almost had to get a battery tailored to it. So I actually found some, I want to say like flight batteries. So they were 1250s, but they were a little bit longer and narrower than my other 1250s, because my other 1200s that I have, or the yeah, I think the 1200s, they were really like short and stubby, so like they bounce around in there, and I just didn't want to deal with the battery falling out the bottom of the tray.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like kind of like bummed. I found the right battery. I wanted to go run it, and it's like every day it was something. Monday, I ended up eating dinner with my buddy and his family, so I didn't leave the house till like almost 8 o'clock. At that point, it's dark, so I'm like, all right, well, there goes that night. Tuesday, I forget what was going on Tuesday. Oh, I know what was going on Tuesday. Don't want to bore everybody, but I was dealing with hearing about all the protests. So I was on the phone the whole time, so I ended up blowing the whole time there. Wednesday we were recording, and Thursday I drove home. So therefore, shot the whole week. Didn't even
That's
get to
so
use
funny.
it.
Like last weekend, it was supposed to rain both days, like pretty heavily, and I was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna go, not gonna go." And sure enough, ended up being sunny, and like I just stayed home waiting for it to rain. It never happened, and actually ended up pissing away an entire weekend that turned out to be beautiful. So that was dumb.
Yeah,
It
I hear you.
happens though. There'll be other days. I mean, we always say stuff like that, and it's you don't want to take any nice day for granted that's in front of you, but it happens.
Oh yeah. So actually, I was gonna say Chris is up by you, so I was gonna say that whole raining thing is kind of like a Pacific Northwest
Yeah,
West
it's
issue.
funny too, because like I don't know. I think there's about 4.5 or 5 hours between me and him of I-5, because it's pretty much just a straight shot down to the Portland area. And like when it's raining there, it's sunny here, and vice versa. Like we have such radically different weather from each other, and so that's why I was kind of joking around with him. I was like, "What rain?" Because it's been just absolutely beautiful this week, and it was supposed to rain.
Which is actually kind of like, it's funny that you bring that up. Like I did say that to Michelle the other night. I was going, it's kind of interesting is the fact that like these, like, okay, for us in California, it is now what, the second week of June. We typically, all of our rain typically ends May. If we have any kind of showers, it's in May. It's normally like warm rain, like it's 75 out and raining, so it's kind of like miserable because you're like, all right, can't really put a jacket on because I'm going to be sweating, but if I don't, I'm going to be drenched. So, you always have that dilemma. But this year it was kind of weird. Like we had at the end of May, there was this one week, it was like 102 for like 3 days, and we're like, oh my God. Then all of a sudden, Thursday hit, and it got super windy. Friday would be like all, overcast. Saturday, it's like 60 degrees out, wind blowing and raining, and you're like, this is not normal weather for this time. And then all of a sudden, it goes away, starts warming up again. We start getting back into the 90s and 100s again. Then all of a sudden, the same thing happens again. Saturday rolls around, it's freaking raining, and you're going, what is going on?
So this time of year is usually kind of when it starts getting nice here. So like normally, like when we're racing and stuff, which this year obviously we haven't really had to worry about, but normally like you're always like watching the weather and checking Facebook to see if races were canceled, because we'd all try and like start having the first rounds at the different tracks here usually in like mid-May, but it always ended up canceling. Like the first 2 or 3 races every year always got rescheduled because of rain, and then this year it's been about the same as it normally has. We didn't have much of a winter here, but now it's, this is usually about the time it starts to clear off and get nice, is like first to mid part of June. So really, I mean, it's pretty rare that we get a lot of rain up here in the summertime. Like if you can suffer through the fall and the winter, putting up with quite a bit of rain, like the summer is just absolutely beautiful. And like you're lucky if it ever even gets to 90 degrees. Like it just ends up being perfect. So you just have these perfect days that, if you can suffer through wintertime up in Washington, you're good to go, because summertime you're definitely rewarded with some beautiful weather. You still there? Oh, okay.
Yes, sorry. I was taking a big gulp of water, and so I mute the mic so nobody has to hear it. And then like you're like done, and I'm like going crap, and I'm like get back.
Oh no, that's fine. I was just making sure. That one night we had that technical problem where it just dropped everything.
Yeah, I understand. I
I
apologize.
just got scared, man.
So
I got scared.
don't worry, I'm not
So,
leaving
should
you.
we talk about Crawl for a Cure?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. As we were starting to go, record tonight. I was about to say going live, but as we were starting to record tonight, they came out with with an announcement about Crawl for a Cure. Now, typically every year, Crawl for a Cure happens in October, which I believe is it Cancer Awareness Month or is it Breast Cancer Awareness
God,
Month?
I don't know. I think it's cancer awareness. I think breast cancer is like February or
I think-
something.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think they just make it. I think it's just a whole. They sum it all up. So it's Cancer Awareness Month. So it's typically always in October, and it's another great event that has kind of grown legs and is really grown over the last. I mean, because I think I've gone 2013. I want to say, or 2014. I think it was 2014. Was the very first Crawl for a Cure, and there was like 25, 30 people there, and that was at Rawlins Lake. And then about 3 years ago, they switched over to Bear River Lake Resort in Pioneer, and now it's like 150 to 200 people. It's just like the amount of growth is insane, but it all started off with a mission, like everything else. So Mark Betancourt, so the Betancourts are the ones who put it on. If I'm not mistaken, his wife's friend either lost their battle with cancer or just started, and he said he wanted to see if there was a way he could use his RC platform to create awareness and give back. And like I said, it's just so awesome to see how big it has gotten in the last couple of years and the amount of donations that they raise, because the fee to crawl has always been donated. All the donations given, the raffle money, everything has gone towards the American Cancer Foundation. And this year, it was one of those things, as you know, with everything going on, and this being a West Coast event here in Northern California, the uncertainty of if they can actually have an event has been, talked about with everybody. I mean, we've had, Axial Fest postponed for a year. Proline by the Fire is still up in the air. Unless they've made a definitive answer. As last I heard, they were still back and forth.
I haven't heard anything either.
So those are two really big events that got postponed. And now we have Crawl for a Cure, which is starting, like I said, to gain traction, become a pretty big popular event here on the West Coast. So this year, instead of actually having a Crawl for a Cure event, they're still having it the same weekend they would typically have Crawl for a Cure, but it's going to be kind of like, what's the word? It's almost like an unofficial official event, to kind of say. What they're doing is they're labeling it Crawling Out of COVID, and it is October 3rd. What I need to do is just bring up the actual flyer so I'm not talking out of my butt. 1 second. Okay, so it's October 3rd at Bear River Lake Resort in Pioneer, and it's going to be put on with ASD crawlers and Crawl for a Cure. It's basically, like I said, it's just going to be a event. You come out. There's no fee, so you're not paying to enter the event like you typically would, where the proceeds would go to the American Cancer Foundation. This time it's a 0 fee to get in. There's a complimentary lunch, and there's also a shirt. While we were doing this show, I did actually post it to our Instagram and our Facebook. The only fees that still apply are the Bear River Lake Resort fees. I believe it's like $15-20 for the day pass. I want to say something like that. So it's really not bad. So especially this year, like, so if you're not paying, like, you're not doing the entry fee, you're just doing the to get into the campground fee. I mean, you could be crawling with your friends and family for $15-20.
That's pretty rad.
So yeah, so it's October 3rd, which is a Saturday. I should be there. I'm planning on being there. Yeah, so it looks like it's going to be a good time, and why I said it's like an unofficial official event, because they're not really, like I said, it's funny that they're making a shirt, because when Mark reached out to me, I want to say it was on Saturday, he said that they were going to kind of get together, but it wasn't really going to be an official event kind of thing. And now it almost looks like it's more official. So, but yeah.
That's going to be pretty cool. You touched on them not making anything off this, right? Like even the shirts are like, it's just the cost of the shirt and that's it.
That's what I'm almost like positive. Here, I'll go to that.
I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I only caught about 10 minutes of the broadcast, and then we had to kind of get going here, but I don't know. I hope we can make it down for that one. I really do. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's always fun. It's a great part of California. It's almost like mini Cisco.
Reservations. They did mention that if you are planning on going, it fills up pretty quick, and that if you want to attend, you need to pay for a campsite and stuff pretty quickly here. So that's something else for people to take into consideration if you're wanting to get that on your calendar. Don't wait till the last minute.
If you plan on camping, the reservations for that go quick. There are a handful of people that do camp. I typically go for the day. So if you're coming from the Sacramento area, you're talking like hour and a half-ish drive. So it's not bad at all.
I'm going to look and see how far of a drive that is. Because that's going to be a heck of a journey. So what is it? It's Bear Creek something? Is that what it is?
Bear River Lake Resort. It's off Highway 88 in Pioneer.
I found it. Holy moly. 905 miles, 14 hours, 4 minutes.
Damn.
As bad as I want to go, it's going to be kind of hard to talk myself into that.
Don't do, like I said, dude, don't feel bad.
That's such a long ways, especially for a weekend. And Trav will not drive our truck, dude. Like, when we went to Axial Fest, we took his Focus because we had just gotten that, and we had that thing stacked to, like, the roof with all of our stuff. But, like, if we go anywhere and we're taking my truck, I'm always the one who's got to drive. We switch off from the Focus, but, man, it's like, I don't know, I drove back from all of Axial Fest. He drove down most of the way, and driving back, I drove the whole way. And, like, by the time we pulled into the driveway, I was a zombie. But, man, like, it didn't even matter. Like, it was so much fun that that's all we were even thinking about. Like, not how bad we want to get home or how long it's going to take. It was like, man, it sucks that it's over. I wish we were there still.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. So I'm on here trying to figure this out as we're recording. I keep clicking on the store because even on their thing it says click here to register, and the store just has a blank page. It says store, but there's nothing there. So I don't know if it's still not ready or if there's such an overload right now that it's freaking out. I almost, like, if it wasn't 10 o'clock at night, I'd probably text Mark and say, do you know that this is what your store looks like?
Text him anyways. He doesn't care. He's too nice.
So, Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But
Yeah, if nobody knows,
but
if you don't know who Mark Betancourt is, like he is one of the nicest guys in the hobby. So
yeah, so yeah, so no, it's gonna be a great event. Like I said, I plan on being there. The beauty of it is, which like I said, maybe I should look. They didn't really. I didn't see if there was an actual time of the event. Because see, that's what always killed me. Like last year, I drove up from my house, which was about a 3 hour drive, and I had to get up super early, drive up there, to try and make it to a time. So, this time I'm, not like, it's not really like, in my opinion, a time kind of thing. Like, and actually, from what I'm seeing, is it doesn't really have a time on the flyer they put out.
so they don't have like drivers meeting
Yeah,
time or anything like that.
yeah, which is kind of cool because then I don't have to worry about getting up at the butt crack of dawn and racing out there. So,
I don't like showing up somewhere being like stressed to get unpacked and like God gotta hurry, running late.
yeah,
I
exactly.
like being on my own schedule and just rolling out of bed whenever.
Oh yeah, I hear you on that. So, but I know this was. I was gonna say, I guess we could say it's kind of a short episode, but
We're hour 20. We're good.
yeah. I mean, I don't really. I don't think there's anything else really in the world of RC that was going on that we needed to
We
touch
can
on.
maybe once we get more details ironed out, talk about our big RC expedition that we're got in the works. But if we can make it happen, we'll have something really awesome for you guys. And so maybe we can talk about that some more next week and go over all that.
Yeah.
That should be pretty rad, though. I think
Oh yeah.
so. Yeah. Well, I guess that's really about everything. We actually covered a lot of stuff tonight too, which is funny
Oh
because
yeah.
it was another night with like no plans.
Well, yeah, I know. I was almost gonna say, man, this is almost like how like we used to do it. No plans. Travis is the organized one
He's
out of all of
really
us.
organized. Like he's way more organized than I am.
Yeah. So I mean, he has his
He
shit together.
does. He takes good care of us.
So, but now it sounds like he's almost going to be abandoning us because Wednesday nights they're drag nights. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I got to talk to him about that because he's kind of like he sort of traded. Like it's weird. So he's usually like racer guy, like all summer long and then all winter long. He's racing indoor on carpet, and then in the summer he races outdoors, 8th scale nitro buggy. And this year, like he kind of just swore all that off and is just like strictly drag racing and crawlers. That's just what he decided he wanted to do. Like he just needed a break. Like he doesn't even have a 2-wheel buggy for racing anymore or anything. Like he dove right into the whole drag racing thing and is helping Die Hard with their program, and he's building a couple crawlers right now and stuff. So he's I don't know. It's cool kind of seeing him broaden his interests because for a long time it was just racing and that's all he cared about. And I don't think he really got burnt out, but I think he's starting to see that you can still fill that little competitive void you may have in yourself and have fun at the same time while doing it. And it sounds like this drag racing thing's kind of his speed now. So it'll
yeah.
be fun.
So yeah, no, it's totally cool. So yeah, until
Yeah,
next
we'll
week.
see you guys later. Have a good one.